Tensions are running high for this episode of NXT. Tensions ran so very high. They were high as hell for this entire episode. Tensions, they were running very high. So let's talk about the very tense, the very highly tense episode of NXT. We start the show finding out that Ember Moon is not medically cleared to wrestle, but we were never told what the injury was. Anyway, it goes, Dakota Kai defeated Saray. I like Saray. I don't see why she had to lose here. Now, I know that you may say, well, she's wrestling the number one contender for the women's championship. Of course, she should not win. And it's like, yes, she should not win. But she also should not be losing. She's still very new. Saray should have been wrestling somebody she could beat. And then Dakota Kai could have done something else. The match was pretty solid. Saray's offense is very smooth. I say I like Saray because she's very bright and very cheerful. And it's been a long time since NXT has brought that kind of energy in. Since Kairi Sane, I believe. I think there hasn't been somebody that's been as bright and cheerful and believable in that role since Saray. Since Kairi Sane. So Saray is very welcome. She's obviously not dead from losing one match. But they should have made more sense and not beat her in this situation. Instead of gave her somebody she could beat. Anyway, Dakota Kai, before the match, said that she was going to defeat the undefeated Saray, which she of course ended up doing. And then after the match, she was going to kick Saray again in the corner because she beat her with a running kick in the corner. It's kind of like Sami Zayn's haluva kick. Then Raquel Gonzalez came out there. Dakota Kai did a great job of fleeing, running away. Raquel Gonzalez said she was going to tear Dakota Kai apart at TakeOver 36. So this is a pretty simple story, not a lot of build to it. I saw a lot of people don't like Raquel Gonzalez as well. Raquel Gonzalez and Karrion Kross are getting a lot of heat online. And not a fan, because I think they both are pretty cool. Kross, his matches, probably he need to, get it together on the main roster as far as his matches are concerned. He's been having good matches in NXT. He needs to start having better matches on the main roster. But Raquel Gonzalez, she's very green. She's still figuring it out. But I think she's got it more together than most, especially considering her level of experience. She got it pretty much down. All right, so let's move on to Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lummus are going on a date. We get the first scene is Indy is very happy. She's putting on her makeup. Candice LeRae wants to go along with her for her protection. Of course, Indy Hartwell's like, I don't need protection. Where do I need protection from? Johnny Gargano's being an overprotective dad. They're both concerned about Austin Theory, by the way, because Austin Theory still has not come back. So Dexter Lummis shows up with flowers. Of course, he has the same facial expression he always has. Then he is getting interrogated by Johnny Gargano, who is asking him what is his intentions with Indy, because he has to know. He feels like he's got to know. So then they go out on a date. Indy Hartwell takes him away, and they go away to go on a date. So they go to a restaurant in which Indy Hartwell orders chicken fingers, which I have to say is very down to earth. That's very down to earth. That's very approachable. That's very girl next door. You can always tell that a girl is very nice when she orders something as simple as chicken fingers. She's willing to eat with her hands in front of you. She's ready to dip some into some barbecue sauce. She's willing to make a little bit of a mess. Not everything is a salad. Not everything is, she's not being very, uppity as far as being high maintenance. So it's very relatable of Indy Hartwell to order chicken fingers. She's trying to make small talk and jokes with Dexter Lummis. Then she starts hearing walkie-talkies, and this was actually funny. The walkie-talkies were, blaring very loudly, and she finds Candice LeRae hiding across the room behind a menu. Her and Johnny Gargano have snuck into the restaurant to spy on Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lummis. I actually did enjoy this. I actually enjoyed the whole thing with the walkie-talkies and the walkie-talkie being a little too loud and gave it away. And them, I enjoyed that. I liked that. So we come to the third scene in which Indy Hartwell is giggling about how funny Dexter Lummus is and that he's has such a great sense of humor. And of course, his facial expression has not changed. So it's almost as if he stopped talking or stopped doing anything the moment the camera was turned on. In any event, and they know that a camera is there too, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second. So Johnny Gargano shows up in the waiter's dressed as a waiter. John Paul, the waiter. And Indy Hartwell immediately knows that it's him. She tells him to beat it. The kid rocks. You know, he tries to take away the cake. She wants the cake. They wrestle for the cake. The cake ends up in Dexter Lummus's face. And then, of course, Johnny Gargano escapes. He runs away because Dexter Lummus, even though Dexter Lummus is just sitting there very perturbed and blank and dead the entire time, he was very concerned, so he ran off. And Indy Hartwell she used her finger to eat cake off of Dexter Lummus's face. And then they were about to kiss, and Indy Hartwell pushed away the camera, so they knew the camera was there the whole time. Very interesting. This was very entertaining. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed the hell out of this. This was good stuff. You know, the LeRays have been not bad in the role outside the ring. They're the shits in the ring because the matches are too long and I'm not into their work. But outside the ring, the way stuff that they've created has been very good. It's been good character stuff for everybody involved, including Austin Theory, even though I think that there's more he can get out of this. But it's done wonders for Indy Hartwell. She's been able to show a great deal of personality. It's been somewhat okay for Dexter Lummus. Has given his character some purpose. But of course, you would question why would this guy want this as purpose? But it's better than doing nothing. So the way has been one of the few bright spots on NXT. I have to admit, I have been enjoying the way. Outside the ring, not necessarily inside the ring, but outside the ring, they've been very fun. So after that, Ilya Dragunov comes in. He makes his first entrance into NXT. The audience doesn't really know him. The audience is like, "Who is this very small Russian guy?" He basically says that he's not a man of many words. That where he comes from, words don't mean anything. Struggle means something, and he says that he put all of his strength into his fist, and he's going to defeat Walter. Then here comes Pete Dunne. I'm the baddest man in NXT. You should be thanking me. I put the entire continent of Europe on my back. You wouldn't be wrestling for the NXT UK Championship if it wasn't for me. The hard work I did. Then he starts talking about, if I had stayed in Europe, I would have put you in your place a long time ago. And, of course, that led to a match between the two in which Ilya Dragunov lost his NXT debut to Pete Dunne because Walter distracted him. Man, oh man, I was very, very, very upset. Not just because I'm a fan of Ilya Dragunov, and I don't think he should have lost, but because they did such a good job on NXT UK of actually giving him momentum. Momentum. That's what he had. Ilya Dragunov won a match against Joe Coffey and Rampage Brown, two guys who are both bigger than he is. He managed to win a match against both of them. And then he loses his first match in NXT to Pete Dunne. No. What they should have done is because he's feuding with Walter, they should have had Marcel Bartel or Fabian Eichner or somebody like that get in his face and say, you're not going to make it to fight Walter because you done stepped on our territory and we're going to break you apart. And then he had to fight one of them. He had to fight Imperium, and he could have had MSK come out there and help him. That would have been much better. He wouldn't have needed to take a loss. You could have finished the show with Cole and O'Reilly. But they beat Ilya Dragunov, which was dumb as fuck, and then tried to give him his momentum back by having him bump Walter after the fact. Walter got to be smarter than this. I know Walter has a great deal of pull in NXT UK. And I'm pretty sure that transfers to some degree to his programs in NXT. Why you have Karrion Kross losing all the fucking time on Raw, and now you have Ilya Dragunov, the first time people ever see his face on NXT, he fucking loses. You didn't even show us that he's the bad motherfucker that you're telling us he is. That's stupid. It's stupid. NXT, I'm telling you. All these people talking about, oh, and there's nothing wrong with NXT. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. That was dumb. That was raw level booking. It was stupid. And even if you do something slick like Dragunov beats Walter, which, my God, that would suck now. That would be stupid as fuck now. You know, what do you do with, like, do you have him feud with Pete Dunne after the fact? Because you still could have done that without them having this match. Stupid. Great match. Wrong guy won. And I thought we were done with the midgets. Wait, we got to get to, we'll wait till the end. We'll wait till the end so I can talk about how highly tense it was in NXT. So, in any event, Cameron Grimes is still LA Knight's butler. LA Knight berated him verbally before this match and says, "Game is it?" To which Cameron Grimes is forced to say it's LA Knight's game. LA Knight wrestles Andre Chase, who is Harlem Bravado, and I cannot believe he didn't get cut. I cannot believe. Vince, you missed one. You missed one, Nick Khan. You went through slashing the roster up. How could you miss Harlem fucking Bravado? How did you miss him? In any event, LA Knight won in short order, and then was going to make the butler, Cameron Grimes, kneel and clean his boots. Ted DiBiase came out, though, said that Cameron Grimes can do better than this. That it's gone too far, that he believes in Grimes, that Grimes needs to follow his heart, and says that I think that LA Knight will give you this another chance for the $1 Million Championship, and that he should, and that you'll become a champion, and the champion that you know you can be. LA Knight said, no way, absolutely not, beat him twice. He is scientifically incapable of defeating me. It's been proven. But if you want the match, I'll give you the match. But here's the rules. If I beat him when I beat him again, then you have to become my butler, not him. So Ted DiBiase is putting his own freedom on the line in favor of Cameron Grimes. That's some pretty big stakes right there. That's some pretty big stakes. I don't mind that. Okay. All right, let's do it. All right, I was on the fence about it because, you know, it's the same thing that he just did, you know, with the butler thing. It comes across a little bit lazy. I would have had them do something else, like, you know, Cameron Grimes has to put his hair on the line or something like that. Something that's going to really embarrass Grimes. And that would have been a lot better for me than Ted DiBiase has to be the butler. Because Ted DiBiase is not going to be the butler. So we already know that. You know, we already know Ted DiBiase is not going to be the butler. But this ought to be fun. You know, watching Cameron Grimes, you know, become what Ted DiBiase thinks that he is. And seeing Ted DiBiase as the fairy godfather to Cameron Grimes is still very weird. You know, the guy's the embodiment of greed and evil. And now he's like, I see in your heart that you're a champion in your heart. He's being so uplifting. It's sickening almost. But at the same time, it's very good stuff for Cameron Grimes. So sacrificing the character of Ted DiBiase, who is old, for the young guy, Cameron Grimes. Okay. Fair trade. So Gigi Dolan cuts a promo and says that, you know, this business is everything to them and that they are never satisfied. They don't go away and feel good about themselves after wrestling or some stuff like that. I was like, all right, who is we? So then Cameron Grimes comes out. She comes out with JC Jane. And JC Jane, I believe, is from Evolve. I think what was her name? Was it Alicia Taylor? No, that's the announcer, isn't it? Alicia Tyler, right? What the fuck? I think her name was Alicia or something in Evolve. In any event, she's still around, so she didn't get fired. Okay. Gigi Dolan has orange hair. She goes to the main roster. That's certainly going to change. Orange hair is already taken. So blue is also already taken, and green is already taken. So she's about to go straight up brunette, or she's gonna have to think outside the box and be like a purple or a mixed color or something like that, because she certainly is not going to be able to have orange hair. And I'm surprised they're letting her on TV right now with orange hair, because it's going to be mixed up with Becky Lynch. I'm just surprised that they're letting her get away with that, even though Gigi Dolan somehow, some way, is even more pale than Becky Lynch. Gigi Dolan is like a vampire. She defeated Amari Miller. I have no idea who that is. Her finisher was an abdominal stretch slam, or like an abdominal stretch roll up. It was pretty interesting. Didn't have a problem with that. Then we got the Cole and Kyle O'Reilly face to face. They said a lot of nothing. You know, Adam Cole talked about how, you've been in my shadow for 13 years. I'm the best wrestler in this NXT's ever had. You were soft. You had no killer instinct. And then Kyle O'Reilly, it's like, guys like Kyle O'Reilly are the reason why Vince McMahon is doing what he's doing in NXT. He's a good wrestler, but his personality is, I think he left them in his other pants. I think he left his personality in his other pants. I just don't see it. I don't see it. He's not interesting enough. He's not interesting enough. He's not interesting. He's a good wrestler. He's just not an interesting person to watch. And this segment went on too long. Okay? I get it. Adam Cole, of course, breaks promo rule 101. I don't think he put over Kyle O'Reilly at all in his promo. Basically, all he said was that Kyle O'Reilly is weak, he's soft, and that he has no business being in the ring with him, and he's better than him in every conceivable way. And, of course, he's going to lose. I'm pretty sure he's going to lose this 3 Stages of Hell match. But shouldn't he put over Kyle O'Reilly a little bit? And he even said that his victory was, didn't count because it was unsanctioned, which is technically true. But he didn't put the guy over at all. And Kyle O'Reilly, to be quite honest, if I don't know how conscious I was able to stay listening to Kyle O'Reilly talk. But in any event, let's just get into these 3 Stages of Hell. So the old 3 Stages of Hell were usually very cool. And now it's basically just nothing. So they're going to have the undisputed match, or whatever the fuck they're calling it, the undisputed end of this feud. Kyle O'Reilly picked a normal match, one-on-one traditional match, because he was upset that he lost a traditional match to Adam Cole at the Great American Bash. Adam Cole, who lost a non-sanctioned match to Kyle O'Reilly, picked a street fight, which is essentially a non-sanctioned match. And because they got into fighting, William Regal, if necessary, which of course is always necessary, picked that the final match will be a steel cage match. So all 3 choices were very underwhelming. I'm not entirely sure what else you could have done. Because NXT is under the same WWE rules, like, it's all going to be very tame. So I'm not sure what you could have done. But I was certainly not thrilled about the first Fall Man 1-on-1, because their first match had chains and tables and shit, and then the second match was straight up 1-on-1. I think we could have gone beyond that. I think probably the last fall should have been Last Man Standing or something like that. Probably should have had the cage match be second, or let the cage match be first and then have the entire match inside the cage, which I think would have been sweet, I expect this match to be almost an hour, and I'm going to be very, very angry when it happens, because that's been the major problem when it comes to the Adam Cole midget era of NXT, is that the main events just got super long. I mean, I'm just talking real, real long. I'm not talking about, it's a good 20-minute match. These matches have been 40 minutes and plus. It's been ridiculous. It's unwatchable to watch it. I cannot watch it again. I refuse to watch a 40-minute match. I refuse. Like, I love Barry Windham and Ric Flair. I love a lot of those guys, man. I'm not sitting watching an hour match. Can't do it. Can't do it anymore. I tried to watch Bruiser Brody and Ric Flair as a match that they had in St. Louis in the 80s. I love both of those guys. I've tried watching that match 2 or 3 times. I cannot get through the entire match. It's 53 minutes. I cannot get through it. Like, I have too much other things to do. I know dweebs online seem to think that, these small guys having long 40-minute matches are the best thing in the world. They're not, man. You know, like it's easier to get away with it in a competitive environment, though. You know, with rules and everything and all that kind of stuff. But when these are like hardcore matches and they're 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you're like, man, nah, man, stop the fucking clock. So let's talk about this. This next thing was I find this to be very, very interesting. So Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa, they cut a promo. Now, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but 3 or 4 days ago, NoDQ.com put online, what was the moment for you when NXT jumped the shark? And a bunch of people said the Gargano-Ciampa feud. It trended for 3 days about how people were very, very angry at how long their feud was. And notice, hell, this has been going on longer than I have said. You know, there's been a lot of people who have been very upset with NXT. And of course, you tie that with all the internet rumors about no more midgets. You know, we're going to go back to bigger guys and we're going to change the direction of NXT. That takes Ciampa's promo in this segment to the next level. He says, he's talking about Ridge Holland. He says that the industry picks guys like him, meaning guys like Ridge Holland, where guys like them, Ciampa and Thatcher, they pick this industry, and that they're everything good and everything just about this industry. And I find that to be illuminating. That just the week that people are saying that Tommaso Ciampa ruined NXT and that NXT was going to have to change and become more about big guys and all that kind of stuff, that Ciampa and Thatcher are both essentially challenging Ridge Holland, and Thatcher cuts this impassioned promo about the industry loving guys like Ridge Holland and shunning guys like them, even though they are the heart and soul of the wrestling business. Because that has been the feeling essentially all night as I was peeking on Twitter to see what people were thinking. That was the belief throughout the entire show. Now I want to finish this episode before I really get into it. I'm probably just going to make this one long episode because I want to talk about that at the end. But I find that to be very, illuminating. It's almost as if Tommaso Ciampa knew this is what people were saying, and people were saying this, and he wanted to respond and say, yeah, the industry is always moving towards guys like Ridge Holland. But guys like us we are the heart and soul. We are everything good about NXT. You could, of course, extrapolate from that and say you're everything good about pro wrestling in general. And guess what? I actually don't disagree with them. You do need passionate, serious performers that are in it because they love the business and not just in it for a paycheck. Because also, almost all of the big guys are in it for the paycheck. But at the same time, big guys usually are the ones that move the needle. I mean, they do. So I appreciated Tommaso Ciampa's response to people who are, kind of talking shit online, myself included, and I appreciate that. I thought that was pretty good here. I like that. I'm looking forward to Thatcher versus Ridge Holland. So Imperium tried to do a promo. They were interrupted by MSK, who did a very, very, very cringe promo. And I almost yelled at the screen, Nick Khan, you missed 2 more. I wanted to yell that so loudly. Like, Nick Khan, clean up on aisle 2. Right? MSK's been around since February. I ain't seen not Nan's lick of personality from these guys. But they're young. They're young guys. Let's give them some time. They're probably going to go up to the main roster and get jobbed out. Let's give them some time. Odyssey Jones defeated Trey Baxter in a very short match for the breakout semifinals. This really upset some people because it was not a typical long-winded back-and-forth match that Odyssey Jones essentially went out there, bumped him a couple of times, and pinned him. And Odyssey Jones has already been doing dark matches for the main roster. And I saw a couple of the wrestling journalists say, well, of course the big guy won. But the new changes, the new directive to NXT is to put over the big guy. So, of course, the big guy won. And then I saw a lot of the, they manufacture consent. The Noam Chomsky concept of manufacturing consent. They start doing that. They start labeling a big dude as being non-talented or less talented than everybody else. And then other people start to follow. The moment I saw that tweet, I looked under it and I saw people saying, yes, they're now going back to pushing talentless big guys like Odyssey Jones. And I was just like, wow, that's sad, man. People are turning on him already. Just because he's a big dude, and the WWE is deciding they're going more towards big guys and less towards midgets. And look, you can say this is a disappointing thing because, hey, Trey Baxter is, not exactly the kind of guy that the company is looking for right now. And we get it. That sucks to a degree. And they were being very dour, period. In so much as, tweeting out things like, it's hard to watch this knowing that either one of these guys could be next. I'm like, come on, stop being melodramatic. But that cheap shot that wrestling journalist, and it wasn't somebody tweeting from their actual account. They were tweeting from one of these wrestling journalist sites accounts. So they got to really hide who they were, at least until the end where they said, "Oh, follow me, yada yada." But I didn't go into that. And basically turning on Odyssey Jones. And to the credit, some of them were actually like, "Oh, he's a big guy, he's talented, he's great, yada yada yada." But I started to see the rumblings of people are now going to start turning on various guys like Ridge Holland and Odyssey Jones. I'm starting to see it already. It started with Cross. And I remember earlier in this episode I said Cross and Raquel Gonzalez are starting to get a lot of people, bitching. Now it's bleeding over to Odyssey Jones. Now, to be quite honest, I don't know that much about Odyssey Jones. I haven't seen a lot of him. From what I have seen, I'm not a fan of his personality. He's just happy to be there. He's big and happy. I'm not a fan of that. I think he needs to be a little bit more serious. I hate his gear. He's a big dude. I hate his gear though. His gear is absolutely terrible. It's not flattering at all. It makes him look like he's wearing a diaper. Like he looks like a stack of chocolate ice cream, and in them stretch pants. That shit looks bad. And he went outside talking about, "Hey, mama, I made it." I was like, ugh. Mandy Rose says that she gave Gigi Dolan some advice, and she likes that Gigi Dolan is following that advice. Interesting. Boa says disobedience will not be tolerated. Then Boa went out there and defeated Drake Maverick, and I don't even think they mentioned Drake Maverick's name. I think they probably did, but he didn't get an entrance. He defeated Drake Maverick after Mei Ying spit mist into Drake Maverick's face, and then he beat him with a roundhouse kick. Interesting thing here, Xia Li's name was not mentioned. They referred to her but never said her name. As a matter of fact, I would say they went out of their way to not mention Xia Li's name. It was almost as if she was unpersoned, which is very strange. Like, even if you leave NXT, usually they still use your name. For them not to even mention Xia Li's name says that she's probably not on the coming up list. So if there's going to be another round of cuts, I would not be surprised to see Boa and Xia Li on that list. Not at all. Boa is okay. He's been on the roster for quite a while, though. I know Xia Li's done some dark matches. I'm not sure she's actually going to get that call up. Bronson Reed also did dark matches. I never checked in a couple of weeks ago. I see how old Xia Li was. I think she was in her 30s. So if they're like, "Hey, you're too old to be getting started," Xia Li might be, about to get unpersoned and released. Who knows? They played a video package for Karrion Kross and Samoa Joe. It was excellent. It was fantastic stuff. Really putting it over. Kross basically says he enjoys hurting people, and somebody has to, start the suffering. And that Joe came in like Superman and thinking he's going to save the day. But Joe's no different than he is. He's just an opportunist. And that when he chokes out Joe, as goes Joe, as goes the past of NXT. So, for the second time, I think they've referenced all of the online chitter chatter, saying that once Joe goes down, NXT as far as it is goes away, and that is a very interesting concept because that's what we've been talking about the whole time. And so let's get into that. I really like that video package. Samoa Joe was very intense, and Cross is very good as well. So it was a great video package. I enjoyed it. So let's talk about all the chitter chatter online. So, as we've discussed in previous videos, NXT's new directive is to move away from smaller guys and people who are older and been around for a long time, and to move towards younger, bigger talents. And there has been a lot of bitterness from the audience for that. Specifically, though, I saw wrestling journalists making the assertion or making a statement claiming that they talked to executives at USA Network and that USA Network is not happy with the proposed change. Journalists making the assertion or making a statement claiming that they talked to executives at USA Network and that USA Network is not happy with the proposed changes to the NXT brand and all of the releases to the NXT brand, from the NXT brand. And I am calling absolute bullshit on that subject. Why? Because what do we know about NXT? The proposed changes. We know that they're talking about we know that they're releasing people. They're saying it's budget cuts. They're also saying, hey, we're trying to move away from older talent. We're going back towards developmental. If we take all that to be true, they also said that, all right, we're trying to get some better lighting in here, better graphics, all these sorts of things, making it more presentable for TV. All right, now assuming that is all true, that will be explaining why you're cutting the budget, right? It would explain, okay, we're cutting down on talent because we're going to move that money that we were using on talent, and we're going to reinvest it into the brand via better graphics, better lighting, and maybe some other tricks and gadgets and stuff like that inside the building. Why would USA Network be angry about that? Why would USA Network be angry that WWE is reinvesting in the NXT brand, the brand that USA Network is paying for? Why would they be upset that WWE is giving special attention to that brand? Now, most people are under the idea, of course, because they've been listening to other wrestling journalists and this whole, oh, it's third brand, and USA Network isn't paying for a developmental league. They're paying for a third brand. And I say, well, who in the world says that it's going to change that much? A lot of the sweeping changes that people are claiming that they're going to make, they have not made yet. They're making some roster cuts, and then they just replace a lot of those people, and it's pretty seamless. Nobody was missing from this situation. I mean, just take it to the next level when it comes to these releases. Do you think USA Network was really pitching a bitch because they fired Bronson Reed and not Raquel Gonzalez, but Bronson Reed and Mercedes Martinez? You think they got really upset because Jake Atlas got fired? You think USA Network gives a fuck about any of those people or even know who they are? No, not at all. Not likely, right? So I don't believe that USA Network is upset about WWE investing in NXT. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not USA Network's idea. Several weeks ago, if you remember, Stephanie McMahon was meeting with the TV networks to talk about doing maybe some televised special events, similar to what AEW wants to do. Similar to what AEW does, where they do like Beach Break or Fighter Fest or something like that. That perhaps they're going to want WWE to do something similar. I mean, they've been doing it with NXT already, like, Halloween Havoc and Great American Bash and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure that if she knew that there were going to be revamps of NXT or any type of upgrades or changes to NXT, that it was probably proposed to USA Network during those talks, And in any event, I don't see how USA Network will be upset about something without knowing the outcome. Without knowing whether this is actually going to work or not, whether this is going to increase the visibility of the brand, increase the investment in the brand, increase the ability to advertise on the brand, to get better sponsorships for the brand. Without knowing, I doubt that USA Network is going to be that upset. Now, there have been also WrestleNomics who went through and says, oh, yes, you know, NXT signed a new deal recently, but it probably wasn't for a lot of money. You know, probably wasn't a big upgrade in money. That leads them to blowing up NXT. There's also a lot of people saying, well, it's because NXT lost to AEW in the Wednesday Night Wars, even though, how do you lose when you were bumped for hockey? Whatever. You know, you have to be in a certain camp to even believe that. Now, if we're being honest, intellectually honest, NXT being moved to Tuesdays is fine. You know, and AEW being on Wednesdays is also fine. I'm pretty sure USA probably wanted to move it to Tuesdays to try to maximize the audience that they could get, because it was hampering both brands. It's hampering NXT and AEW by forcing people to choose. Now they don't have to choose; they can watch both. But I'm honestly at the point right now where I don't believe these people speak to anonymous wrestling journalists and give them the goods on what they feel about a product that they're paying for, and it doesn't hit like the really big news sites like Variety or Deadline or something like that. That they're having brunch with some guys who do a podcast, and these podcast guys are now tweeting about it. Like, imagine that you're an executive at USA Network, and you're having a chit chat with some guy. You're throwing back shots of whiskey, and you tell them, yeah, man, like WWE really fucking up this NXT thing. Like, we love the product, but they fired our guy Bronson Reed. You know, like, why would they do that? Why would you fire our guy Bronson Reed? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You got to be fucking with us. And then you go online one day because you're a wrestling fan. Obviously, if you know who Bronson Reed is, you're a wrestling fan. And you see that this guy you've been having drinks with is telling wrestling journalists and tweeting about the conversations you two had. And you got to be, I would feel betrayed. I would be like, dude, why are you spreading the things that I'm telling you? But I'm not using your name. I'm like, bro, your name is on the screen. Your face is on the screen. All somebody has to do is find out that I'm talking to you, and they know they got it from me. That's assuming it's even true. Which you're doing a lot to assume it's even true. So I don't buy into this whole USA Network is upset. I don't even see why USA would care. Why would they even give a fuck? I can't find a reason why they would even care. All right? I'm pretty sure they say, hey, whatever you guys are the wrestling guys. You guys know what you're doing. You know, looking at the ratings for Raw, looking at the ratings for SmackDown. Hey, if we can get higher ratings, go for it. You know? So I don't buy that. And I think all the wrestling journalists that are really been upset about things that have come out that nobody has officially said, like the no midgets mandate and the no older talent mandate and all these sorts of things, without knowing for sure what any of this means, I have a hard time being upset or feeling that anyone else would be upset. But they're trying their best to ruin the NXT viewing experience, and I won't let them. But let me know what you guys think about all this nonsense, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort so